And before we actually start the agenda today, I would like to welcome, this is his first meeting today, Mr. Jay Butai, Director of Transportation for the state of Hawaii.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to serve on the board. I know I have big shoes to fill, so I'll do my best to contribute and add value.
All right. Great. Thank you, Jay. We look forward to seeing you at our meetings and look forward to the wisdom that you can impart on our proceedings. Anyway, the first item requiring board action today is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Water Supply held October 23rd, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 23rd. Is there any discussion, any amendments, corrections, additions? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, minutes are approved. We are now moving on to the items for information. The first item for information is the Board of Water Supply Financial Plan and Rate Study Update. Manager Lau.
Thank you, Chair Andaya. This afternoon I'm going to ask Joe Cooper, our Waterworks Controller, and Mr. David Ebersol of CDM Smith to present an update on the Water Master Plan, Financial Plan, and Rate Study Update. Basically, at this point, we're just trying to inform the board on what our discussions with our stakeholder advisory group has happened, and also share with the board some of the proposals that are on the table for consideration at a future board meeting, probably sometime next year. Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
Hi. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, board members. I'm Joe Cooper, the Waterworks Controller, and Dave Ebersol from CDM Smith, and I will be updating you on the Stakeholder Advisory Group presentation on fixed charges and subsidies that we made earlier this month. Let's see. Like I said, I'm going to walk you through the fixed charge presentation. And currently, this is a charge. Our fixed month billing charge is a charge that every customer sees every month, whether they use water or not. Currently, it represents about 7% of our revenue, and it is a flat fee of $9.26 per month per customer, regardless of meter size and regardless of water usage. The billing charge covers such things as the cost it takes us to maintain our customer service staff, our billing staff, to maintain and repair meters, to read meters, and to process our bills. And there are, as we look at this, there are three commonly used methods to allocate fixed charges in the water industry. The first method is the one that we're using, the billing charge. And this is a charge that basically tries to recover the cost, the direct cost related to billing, maintaining the meter, reading the meters, etc. The second charge is type of method to use is a monthly charge. And this is actually the more common method. And it's a more common method because generally about 80 to 90% of a utility's charges are fixed. And so it tries to incorporate more charges beyond those of reading meters and sending out bills. And so often this also typically varies by customer class or by a meter size because there's a portion of readiness to serve or capacity that some water utilities will factor into the monthly charge. The third type of charge is a minimum charge. And again, this is similar to the monthly charge, except it often adds a factor of usage in. So perhaps the first 2,000 gallons of water usage might be included into your charge, whether you use any water or not. And this is just to predictability for customers and to guarantee that minimum usage. The trend in water industries, I said, is since most of our charges are fixed, the trend is to recover a higher percentage of our costs through the fixed charge. This is also comes into fact in a lot of utilities where they have declining revenues due to increased conservation and lack of water. And the concept also improves revenue stability. So the change, or the trend on a lot of water utilities is to actually have a higher fixed charge. However, there is the other side of the coin, and to have a lower fixed charge and to recover a smaller percentage of your costs through this charge. This has the advantage of managing your revenue through your usage charges as opposed to through a fixed charge. It also gives the customers more of an incentive and more ability to conserve water and to manage their water usage because they're only being charged for what they use as opposed to a standard amount for a fixed charge. And this kind of falls more into what the BWS currently does, since we're not really experiencing declining revenues. We're not really in a position where we have an issue that we need more revenue stability. So this is an example of how fixed charges may vary by meter rates or by meter size, and how the other counties in Hawaii do it. As you can see, Maui charges, and all the other counties actually charge increasing amounts based on meter size. So Maui charges $19.29 for a 5/8 inch meter and over $1,000 a month for an 8-inch meter. Likewise, Kauai and Hawaii have similar rates. We currently still only charge $9.26. If we were to switch to a method where we charge by meter size, it could look something like this. Now, this is just an example. We're not proposing to charge by meter size, but we wanted to give a comparison of, say, apples to apples. So by using equivalent meter units, we applied those to the different meters and our current charge to recover the amount we normally get through our monthly charge. And this is an example of what those charges might look like. We asked the stakeholder advisory group for their input on how we should adjust or how we should handle these. And first, we wanted to know whether the billing charge was clear and whether it was equitable. And most of the stakeholders thought that it was clear that you're billing you're charging us for the amount it takes to send out a bill. They really weren't sure if it was equitable because, again, large water users get charged the same as small water users. Should the fixed charge be changed to vary by meter size? And there really wasn't a consensus on this. It was difficult to say without with the information we provided, and actually with the information we've gathered in the past. Should all classes be charged the same amount? And they did feel that there was a certain fairness that all customers or all customer classes have the same basic structure on how the charges. And then finally, should a proportion of the fixed charges be increased? And they didn't really feel that we should increase the proportion of fixed charges. Again, that was they kind of fell into the philosophy that they thought it was good that customers can control their water bill and it gives them an incentive to conserve. And so that was the feedback we got from the stakeholders. Are there any questions or comments on fixed charges? Yes.
So if I'm correct, $9.26 per bill for all customers is what we charge at the moment.
Yes, that's correct. That's what we currently charge.
Regardless of usage, regardless of meter size, regardless of any other factor?
Yes.
And is it, does that cover our actual cost for the items enumerated?
Yes, and if I'm correct, I believe we get around $20 million in revenue from the billing charge, and that covers the fixed cost or the costs we've identified in the past, like I said, of running the billing office, of our computer software, of the customer service, fixing and reading meters. It's just how you divide that up between the customers.
When you say it covers it, does it more than cover it, or is it break even, or is it close?
It's close. And again, it's based on the cost of service study, or it's based on an allocation on the cost of service study. So it can vary from year to year whether our costs are higher or lower. But over the study period, it covers, or it's designed to cover our actual costs to provide those services.
And when was the last time that was adjusted? 9/26?
It was adjusted, and this is Ernie, it was adjusted in July 1st of 2015.
So it was part of our standard, our last series of rate increases also increased both the usage fee and the monthly fee.
After the rates were adopted the last time, a 5-year set of rates, a rate schedule was adopted was actually in 2011, around November of 2011. Took effect on January 2012. And one of the issues or questions raised by people was, why is the fixed charge the same for a small customer versus a large customer? And we did get some feedback from the city council too at the time, asking us to look at this. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at this item.
And it also is part of our general cost of service study, and as we move into structuring, developing our rate structure going forward, again, it's kind of, we go back to the revenue requirement of how much money we need to run the Board of Water, and we'll divide that up into a monthly charge and then a usage charge. And the amount of money we collect will be basically the same. It's just how it's divided up to collect that amount of money.
Well, one of the questions, like what Joe pointed out, empowering our customers, maybe could you bring that slide back, Joe? The next slide. So empower customers to manage their water usage with lower fixed charges. That's kind of the approach we're taking right now. Remember the previous slide also said about 7% of our total revenue is from this fixed charge or this billing charge. Other than 93% really comes from usage charges, and that's the cost per 1,000 gallons that we charge people based on water, how much water they use. So again, the philosophy of recovering a smaller part of the fixed charges from fixed charge amount, which is currently 926, as opposed to increasing that to a higher proportion, beyond 7%. So we kind of feel that by having a smaller fixed charge actually empowers the customer to practice more water conservation, gives the customer more control over their water bill, because a bigger component of their bill, the water bill, not the sewer bill, is related to usage, how much water they actually use.
And it's really, we're presenting this to the board and to the stakeholders to get their feedback and to get their impression of how they feel that we can most equitably design water rates for the future.
Now, there was a question that was posed to the stakeholders advisory council, which is whether the fixed charge should be pegged to the meter size.
Yes.
And the response from the group was that it was difficult to say based on the information provided. Do you know what other information that might be helpful?
Well, there are different methods to assess these charges. And so one of the ideas, or one of the concepts was you can base it on the cost of the meter, you can base it on a maintenance schedule for the meter, or the cost of maintaining the meter. And we have been, and currently we didn't do that discrete analysis on how much it costs to maintain different sizes of meters. But we are in the process of trying to look at that a little bit. You can also base it on, I guess, capacity charges of how much. Having a larger meter means that you have to have the capacity to provide water for that meter, which can actually kind of go upstream as to how many wells and sources and reservoirs you have to have. So those are the different allocation methods that one could use to change that. And yes, we didn't really have a specific allocation method to present to the stakeholder advisory group. Are there any other questions or comments?
You're not looking for our opinion here, you're informing us, right? And there's going to be a period of time where you're going to make recommendations and you're going to...
At some point, probably early next year, we're going to actually have a rate workshop that we're looking to schedule. And at that point, we'll try to lock in exactly what items you'd like to include in the rates. But we're kind of preparing you to face those decisions. One is this fixed charge. Should it vary by size of the customer or type of customer, or should it be the same for all customers? Other areas are, and you'll see it coming up in the presentation, the areas of subsidies or support for different programs, such as recycled water, affordable housing, our agricultural customers. So we're actually preparing you, but if you would like to share kind of your thoughts and opinions at this time, we would welcome that too.
I'm sure what would really help when we get to that point is some examples. Just pull some numbers out of the air and tell us under this scenario, what a large user would look like, what a small user would look like, and what their fix would be against the others, and estimate what their usage might be, so we get a feel for it. And my gut feeling is that the large users, their fixed fees so small. But I'm okay basically with that, because they're paying significantly more for the water that they're using. But if you can just give us some hard examples, that would be easier to understand than the
Okay. Not a problem. I know in some of our, as we've talked about tiers, and I'm not sure if you were on the board at that time, we did give some examples of different customers, how shifting the tiers would affect different customers' water bills. And sometimes some go up and some go down as you make these changes. But thank you.
Good suggestion.
Are there any other questions or comments? If there are no more, I will turn it over to Dave Ebersold, who will be talking about fire protection and other subsidies.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon. Great to be back here again speaking with you. So I'm going to go through a number of items, the first one being fire protection charges. And the idea here is there's two major different types of fire protection systems. The public ones, which are the fire hydrants that you're used to seeing as you drive down every street. That's when, typically when there's a residential fire, that's what the fire department hooks up to. And then there are a number of private fire systems, for example, a commercial building or that may have a fire sprinkler system. And in both of these cases, there are costs associated with the utility providing service to those fire protection systems. So in the case of public systems, there are some instances where the water utility will recover those costs from another governmental entity like the fire department, or if there's a special district that's in charge of fire protection. Here in Honolulu, the Board of Water Supply spreads those costs amongst all its customers. And if you were to recover them through another governmental agency, that would essentially just be charging the same people, but through a different mechanism, say a tax instead of a water rate. Private systems, these are instances where there is also a cost associated with that protection. Currently, the Board of Water Supply doesn't recover that cost. It is also spread amongst all the customers, but it is nonetheless a cost, and different agencies deal with it in different ways. So why is this a big deal? Well, fire protection differs from other services in that it's a standby service that is, and actually has to be, available on demand. It's provided only to those customers who have these fire protection systems. And again, it's rarely used but must be available at all times. And it's not needed by customers who don't have it. So we're exploring the issue of, since it's a small subset of customers that imparts these costs on the system, should they be recovered from that same group of people? It's dealt with differently on the different islands. Maui does not have a separate fire protection charge. Kauai and Hawaii both do. And you can see they're not simple. There's a couple of different components to them. They are based on meter size. So on Kauai, if you had say a 4-inch fire line, you'd pay $80 a month for that line, plus another $297 a month for the agency to read the meter associated with that. Similar situation on Hawaii, and you can see these charges go up to well over $1,000 a month in some instances for the larger meter sizes. So if we were to do something, these costs are allocated based on the actual operations and maintenance costs associated with the fire connection systems, and then the demands that fighting two simultaneous fires in the same part of the system impart. So there's a very clear methodology about how to do this. In looking at the Board of Water Supply's costs for private fire protection, it's about $400,000 a year. And so if that were to be allocated based on meter sizes, in this table you can see the sizes and numbers of the various fire service meters that are currently in the system. These are for private fire, and the resulting monthly charge that would result from this. So those range from $1.20 per month for 2-inch and smaller meters up to just under $100 a month for a 12-inch meter. Again, this is an example. There are also other types of subsidies that are possible, and they include affordable housing, homeless shelters, and then fire sprinkler installation projects. So I wanted to talk briefly about those and then kind of maybe tackle it all at once for any of your questions. Currently, there's a Bill 59 working its way. It's been introduced in City Council, and it's intended to stimulate the production of affordable housing. There's also, it's a companion for Bill 58, which has affordable housing requirements. And the real idea here is to establish a mechanism to incentivize developers to increase the affordable housing stock. Bill 59 proposes a number of incentives, including fee waivers. The existing proposed fee waivers include the wastewater facilities charges, park dedication requirements, plan review and building permit fees, exempting any increase in property taxes during construction, exempting real property taxes for affordable rental projects, and the city is requesting that your board consider a waiver of your associated fees also. Any such thing would require your board's approval, and so this is the beginning of that part of the discussion. So what has been looked at is looking at the Housing Oahu Affordable Housing Strategy from September of 2015 and the potential number of affordable housing units, both for single family, multifamily, and homeless units, looking at the total number of units and the estimated water systems facilities charge that the board would collect from these different developments. The water systems facilities charge is what someone pays to the Board of Water Supply to connect to the system. It's for their share of capacity in the water system. So you can see the associated amounts totaling about $28.5 million. Recent requests for BWS fee deferrals for homeless shelters have been about $170,000 over the past couple of years. So this is an example of some of the costs that might be associated with those types of efforts. And then there's also a Bill 69 for fire safety that deals with retrofitting high-rise residential buildings with fire sprinklers. This was introduced into City Council in August of 2019. August of 2017. It's been deferred in committee, and the City Council has been requesting additional information about its implementation and financial incentives. But there is a proposed Resolution 17-316 from the City Council requesting that BWS waive the connection fees for these retrofit fire sprinkler systems. And we talked previously about the costs associated with those. So it's been estimated that there are probably somewhere around 150 existing condominiums that may need to be retrofitted with fire sprinklers. And the size of the meters is not clear at this time. They would likely range between 4 inches and 8 inches. But on average, this would require the BWS to waive something on the order of a little over $2 million in fees. So if we were to look at all these different types of subsidies that we've been talking about, recycled water, non-potable water, agricultural customers, we talked about those in a previous meeting. And then today talking about the fire service standby charge, fire sprinkler retrofit, and affordable housing and homeless projects. You can see the annual amounts associated with those different types of potential subsidies. And if those amounts were to be allocated evenly to all of the BWS's customers, you can see what the average cost would be per month for these different items. And they range from a low of about 9 cents per month for the fire sprinkler retrofit to a little over $3 a month for the recycled water. Okay? So one of the things that we did as an exercise with the stakeholder group at the November 13th meeting is we asked them how would they, if they had money in their pocket to spend, how would they go about spending it? And so we actually did an exercise with them where there was a map that they used that represented these different types of subsidies, and we gave them $57.50. And we said the first $50, and they had poker chips that represented this money. So we said, put $50 in the center because that covers your basic cost of service. Now you've got $7.50 left, and we gave it to them in 50-cent increments. How would you spend it? Or not? You can contribute to these subsidies, or you can keep it in your pocket. And so they spent some time going through that exercise. They were in small groups. We didn't ask them to achieve consensus. They were able to express their own opinions. And then what I'm showing here are the averaged results. So on average, they gave agricultural water customers a monthly subsidy of about $2. They also had large subsidies for recycled water at a little over, at $1.38, and affordable housing at $1.21. Down on the bottom was the fire service standby charge, and then the items in between were fire sprinkler retrofits, homeless shelters and housing, and keeping some in their own pockets. So these were the aggregated average results from that exercise. Now, as you may also know, the Board of Water Supply has on its website a web survey and has gotten now close to 1,000 responses. These are some of the results from that web survey as of November 8th, asking a very similar set of questions. And the question here is, would you strongly support or strongly oppose, so scale ranging from 1 for strongly opposed to 5 being strongly support, subsidies for the following areas: recycled and non-potable water, agriculture, elderly or low income, fire sprinklers, homeless, and affordable housing. And much like the results of the exercise with the stakeholder, these are fairly similar. The support for recycled and non-potable water along with agricultural water is highest. You can see the purple and orangish bars to the right-hand side are largest there. And then the moving down to affordable housing at the very bottom, this actually had 40% of people either rated this a 1 or 2, meaning there's fairly high opposition to that. In fact, it was the sum of 1 and 2 is higher than the sum of 4 and 5 in this instance. So this gives you an idea of some of the public sentiment on these topics, and that's where we are in the conversation right now in terms of seeking public input, seeking stakeholder input as these get considered for action in the future by your board. Any questions? Yeah.
The stakeholder advisory, that exercise where they were given basically $7 in some instances.
Yeah.
They could spend that any way they want.
Including keeping it in their pocket.
They could decide to keep all $760 or whatever and keep it for themselves.
Yes. I suspect that there's a fair amount of peer pressure that happens when you're standing around the table and people start putting some money out and that you might feel compelled to do it. I would think that in your web survey where there's that element of anonymity, you wouldn't see that same dynamic. Other questions? Yes?
What was the sample size on the list?
So far, I think in the results that you were seeing, there were around 800 responses. That number is up around 1,000 right now. And it's been staying pretty constant from all the way through. Hasn't moved a whole lot as the number of responses has changed.
One more question. Just for clarification, when we have sample monthly subsidy amounts that were shown to us, those are amounts for affordable housing and homeless, as well as fire sprinkler retrofit. We don't currently have subsidies for those.
That's correct. You currently provide a subsidy for recycled water, non-potable water, and agricultural customers, and the fire service standby charge. Fire sprinkler retrofit and affordable housing and homeless are just things that are being considered, things that have been proposed out there.
So the amounts are just estimates.
They're complete estimates. That's right. As is the fire. Yes, they're complete estimates.
I'm sorry, Dave, just to clarify for my benefit, the fire service standby charge, we don't have a charge like that?
You don't have a charge for it, but you are
bearing that cost.
You're bearing the costs.
Right.
And so you spread those costs over all your customers by not having the charge. So it's a de facto subsidy.
And so those estimated amounts, or actually for any amounts, we as a board can change them however we want to change them.
Ultimately, depending on what of the magnitude of the subsidy to help different programs, that's in the board's control as a policy decision of the board. So these numbers could change. This is very rough. This is basically, I think, Dave took the total number of bills processed in a year, which is over 1 million bills a year.
It's a little shy of 2 million.
Almost 2 million. And divided the annual estimated cost would be into per bill charge or share.
That's correct.
Two things to point out here. The fire sprinkler retrofit was assumed, for lack of any more information, we kind of assumed over a 12-year period that it might continue over a 12-year period. And the affordable housing, which had a much shorter period for something like 18,000 units, we arbitrarily on our part just assumed maybe it's over an actual 10-year period instead of compressed into like 3 to 5 years. We actually expanded it out. That's kind of our best information at this point.
So there was no request for example, for affordable housing and homeless. There's no outstanding request for $2.9 million, right? It's just,
Those are basically our best guess based on the affordable housing plan that was issued in 2015, the draft, and spreading it over a 10-year period on the number of units that might be built by developers or individuals in the community, or government, could include government too, that they might ask for this subsidy. Earlier, we pointed out some actual projects. If you can go back to the Kahauiki Village, I just want to make sure it's clear. Kahauiki Village, which is Mr. Dwayne Cariso's project. These are deferrals, so these are not waivers or subsidies, so ultimately these projects would have to pay these estimated charges for their project unless a program is adopted in the interim.
These are hookup fees, they're not reduction in the per gallon usage.
I think these are the water system facilities charge and the meter connection charge and the connection costs, or what we call the installation charge.
Likelihood of building about 1,800 affordable housing units per year, which is the 10-year estimate we have there. It's pretty unlikely. That's a generous amount. We built 2,000 units total, all units last year. So thinking we're going to do 1,800 per year of affordable units, that's a little stretch. All I'm saying is let's not get too carried away with posting that number until we.
Yeah, and again, that's our best guess at this point. We have really attempted to continue the dialogue with the Department of Planning and Permitting, which has a better idea of what projects might be coming out, a number of units. I did see recently a request from the state of Hawaii to redevelop Mayor Wright housing, and that was over 2,000 units, I think, for that project. I wasn't sure over what period of time, though. And that was just one project in itself. So you're right, and if we could get a better number from DPP, that would be great. We'd like to be more accurate in our estimate on the financial impact of a subsidy for affordable housing would be. The mayor has expressed a strong interest in this, appearing before the board back in April, and I think he still would like to address the affordable housing needs of our community.
members, any more questions?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. David, Jim, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have some people who are interested in testifying on this matter, so I would like to now open this up for public testimony. I understand we have in the gallery Mr. Ed Hirata, former manager and chief engineer of the Honolulu Boiler Water Supply. Mr. Hirata, did you have testimony today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Ed Hirata, former manager of the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. I'm number 4 from the left up there. I'm here to testify against the waiving of all BWS fees included in City Council Bills 59 and 69. Waiving the water system facilities charge for affordable housing and homeless shelter projects will adversely affect the BWS's ability to provide water wells, reservoirs, transmission and distribution lines for all customers. waiving meter and fire meter charges for the condominiums, adding sprinklers in their existing units. To me, results in public monies being used for private purposes. And I would strongly advise that that be looked at. Rather than waivers, I would recommend that the city administration use the 100% improvement district method to float bonds to fund these projects at low interest rates over a period of 30 years. And the condominium owners will be responsible for all costs of these bonds, and no public monies will be spent. That concludes my testimony. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Hirata.
Thank you, Mr. Hirata.
Is there anyone else here today to testify? I understand the mayor may be on his way to testify. We did get notice today. In the interest of time, what I'll do is I'll move on, and when he shows up, then we'll reopen the item.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on for now. Next on our agenda is the Capital Improvement Program quarterly update.
Thank you, Chairman. We have Mr. Jason Takaki. He is the Program Administrator for our Capital Projects Division. Provide the report. Mr. Takaki.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya and board members. This is the quarterly report for the Capital Improvement Program for the Board of Water Supply for the first quarter of fiscal year 2018, which ended September 30th, 2017. The numbers are in front of you. 4 contracts were awarded, totaling just under $879,000. And also in the first quarter, 5 contracts were completed and closed, totaling just about $1.5 million. The details on the projects and the contracts are on the following page. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Members, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Takaki. Moving on, the next item for information is the 2018 Water Conservation Week poster and poetry contest. Chair recognizes Kathleen Pahinui.
Mahalo, Chair, board members, Manager Lau, Deputy Manager. We are proud to announce our 40th Annual Water Conservation Week Poster Contest and our 10th Annual Water Conservation Week Poetry Contest. They will be launching December 4th, 2017. The 2018 Water Conservation Week theme is this year, Conserve Water, Use It Wisely, which again goes into our mission of saving water, use what you need, but do not waste it. This year's contest deadline is February 28, 2018. Posters and poems may be submitted to our communications office or any satellite city hall on Oahu except Hickam. The winners of both contests will be announced on May 9, 2018 at an award ceremony at Mission Memorial Auditorium. Winning and honorable mention entries will be featured in our 2019 Water Conservation Calendar, which will be available to the public at the end of 2018. And I hope all of you have received your 2018 calendars. Contest information and entry will be posted on the Board of Water Supply website by our launch date of December 4th. The 2018 Water Conservation Calendar you have received features the winning posters and poetry entries from last year's contest. As in years past, we are seeking sponsors to offset costs to produce the annual Water Conservation Calendar and Poetry Contests. Sponsorships allow for a win-win marketing opportunity with tax-deductible benefits to our sponsors while providing the Board of Water Supply with financial support for this key effort to protect Oahu's precious and finite water supply. The entries submitted each year continue to demonstrate that the Board of Water Supply's work to educate our island youth is effectively promoting our message of waste source sustainability, Kawaiʻola, Water for Life. And again, I'd like to thank Board Member Sasamura, who was able to step in for Chair Andaya this year. Thank you again, sir, for being at the award ceremonies. We appreciate it. Any questions? And if anyone has any companies that you think would like to sponsor, please let me know. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next item, we have recruitment status update. Chair recognizes HR Director Michelle.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya and members of the board. Michelle Thomas in the Human Resources Office. I'm going to be providing you the report as far as the period of August 2017 to October 2017. During the period of August 2017 to October 2017, we had 9 new hires, 9 promotions, 1 demotion, 12 separations, and 23 new approvals to fill, and 7 of those were canceled requests. We are currently working on ramping up our recruitment for the Board of Water Supply, and hopefully we'll be moving forward with more, bringing on more employees with the board. Does anybody have any questions?
And you, just give me a few. Do you have a hard time recruiting for the board? Easy? Are we often short employees, or what's just our overall general sense?
As far as for public service, we're generally pretty standard with a lot of other public service agencies with regards to recruitment. With the Board of Water, we are pretty an employer that a lot of candidates like to come to because we're seen as a secure employer. And so we generally have a good recruitment efforts that are going on with our employees. Unfortunately, the process does take some time due to the civil service process, but we do generally bring on quite a few employees in a timely manner.
What is time?
I'm sorry? We are on par with the rest of the city and county as to bringing on employees.
It is if I could translate,
Yeah.
Board Member Sun, you also serve with the city, so you understand that we also have to work with the Department of Human Resources, go through that process. So it does take a number of months to recruit, qualify people, and interview and select. So it could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And I think reorganizations probably take about a year to happen. We've had challenges. We have similar challenges that a lot of agencies, not only in government but also the private sector. We have a workforce that is aging. And this year we are going to have a lot of retirements. I think over a dozen retirements.
That's correct. In December, we have over a dozen retirements that are coming on. And that is pretty par along all industries, not exclusive to the Board of Water, due to the fact that the baby boomer generation is now moving towards retirement, and we're having to fill behind in that area.
We also do have some challenges in certain types of positions, especially the highly technical, like IT, information technology. It is very challenging to find people that are willing to work for government, BWS in particular, when we're not competitive in salaries. And the market is, in demand. They're in demand. There are other types of positions that are challenging. We seem to have struggles in finding qualified people to take on upper management positions at times, like the head of field operations, both the number 1 and number 2 positions. The number 1 position is vacant there. The number 2 position we anticipate will be vacant after the end of the year. So it's been a real challenge. And our HRO group is working very hard. There was a sustained period of hiring freezes that occurred a number of years ago, and we're still feeling the impact of those hiring freezes and trying to work our way out of it as our workforce ages and more retirements occur. So it is continuing to be a challenge. Thank you.
Maybe now that we're on Honolulu, if anybody watching, send your application in.
Since this is on the agenda, yes, by all means, people that are interested in working in the Board of Water Supply, please check out our website, boardofwatersupply.com, or the Department of Human Resources, City and County of Honolulu's website at honolulu.org.
Okay, members, any more questions? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the item, next item for information is the schedule of monthly board meetings for calendar year 2018. They are included in your packet. If you could take a look, or perhaps you could take a look after this meeting and get back to us if you're able to, if you have any conflicts. That would be a good time before we actually have to adopt these.
This is an information item, so not for action.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll have enough board members attend these dates to have a quorum.
Okay.
We need at least 4 members.
Okay. And if anybody has a conflict that they know of at this time, are they able to let us know?
You can let Leslie Kuhn, our board secretary, know. And so she can kind of do a polling of our board members, our 7 members, to see if we meet quorum or not. This past year, we've had, I think, a couple meetings canceled because we lacked quorum. So that would be great. That's a great idea, Chair Andaya. If you could let us know their schedule conflicts with some of these dates, please let us know, and then we'll determine hopefully ahead of time if we meet quorum or not.
Okay, before I move on to the next item for information, I do understand the mayor is here, and so I would like to reopen item for information number 1. That's the Board of Water Supply Financial Plan and Rate Study Update. Mr. Mayor?
Good afternoon and aloha. It's good to see all you guys. Here to make a request or renew a request. Back in February of this year, which is coming to an end, I gave my State of the City speech, in which I focused on just one thing and one thing alone, and that was affordable housing. And since then, we have 2 bills that sit before the council, 58 and 59. 58 deals with regulation, 59 with incentives. But in my speech in February, I talked about incentives that the city is going to provide for affordable housing. And those included eliminating sewer hookup fees. We got ENV to agree to waive those, and on average it's about $3,500 to $4,500 per unit for a sewer hookup. We're eliminating park dedication fees. We're eliminating DPP application and permit fees. We're waiving real property tax increases during the construction period. We're eliminating real property tax payments for affordable rental units during the 30-year affordable rental period. So for the entire period, if it's all rental that you build, you pay no real property tax. We're providing density bonuses and reducing parking requirements, in addition for more affordable units. We're going to expedite building permit process for qualified projects. And number 8 was, I will be meeting with the Board of Water Supply to waive their water hookup fee. Then, that was in late February. In early April, I wrote a letter to the Board of Water Supply making such a request. And then I came here in April before the board asking you to consider waiving the water hookup fee for a period of time. ENV is waiving sewer hookup for a period of time. It's not in perpetuity, it's for a period of time to see how it works. So I'm back here today to renew my request to do exactly that for some period of time. And understand you're doing some kind of rate study, which I think is important. And I do understand waiving a water hookup fee means other ratepayers have to pick up the burden. But I think it's such an important public policy initiative here. I can't think of anything more important than affordable housing. Homelessness is a result of the lack of affordable housing. Today's front page story on Monster Homes is a result of a lack of affordable housing. And we have to figure out every way possible to break the model of the past and encourage more true affordable housing units. And I believe that the Board of Water Supply has a role to play in that by looking to waive these water hookup fees for affordable housing units for some period of time. Doesn't have to be in perpetuity, could be 3 years. I don't want to wait for you to finish your study because I don't know how long that's going to take. And these bills are going to be moving coming the beginning of this year, and it'd be nice to amend the incentives bill, which is 59, to include a waiver of the water hookup fees for units that are truly affordable, which is 120% AMI and below. So I'm renewing my request. I hope I don't have to come back here again. And I think there's a way forward where you could look at this short term and see what the impact would be. We'll find out first if these incentives are enough to truly encourage the type of housing we're talking about. And secondly, you could see what kind of impact it would have on your income. And you can proceed with your study and work that into it and come back when it's finished to see what you want to do and revisit the issue. But I'm here today to ask you to seriously consider and make a decision in the next 2 months. I think it's fair and reasonable at this point. And I want to stand behind my word, back in February. And I'm hoping you'll join us in addressing, I think, the most critical challenge we face here in the city and county of Honolulu, and that is providing housing for our keiki. With that, if you want to ask questions, I don't know if you allow for questions here, but I'm more than happy to answer questions you may have.
Members, any questions?
In your estimate, what do you think the number of affordable units will fall under this over the next 3 years?
Well, I've committed to move out 800 units every year. So in 3 years, 2,500 units. I don't know what it is on average per unit. Now, I'm not going to hit those targets, I don't think, right now. But you got to have a target to get somewhere. And we've set kind of aggressive targets. But yeah, so I'd say at the outer end, it would be 2,400 units.
Manager Lau, maybe you can share the timeline in terms of our rate study. Maybe you can share with the mayor what our timeline that we have.
Okay, Mayor, the timeline is right now to target around board adoption, actually rates or subsidies like the affordable housing, if the board considers that, around the middle of next year. So June timeframe is our target on the schedule. In January, we'd have the board workshop on rates and actually have the board provide like interim decisions on which subsidies and other things to consider in the rate structure. That's kind of the time frame right now. So we are actively working on this and talking to our stakeholder advisory group and communicating, with the community to let them know that this is something that potentially could be on the table for the board to consider.
I think that's too long, personally. It's another 6 months from now to finish a study, and then who knows, right?
Actually, the board will need to make some decisions after that board workshop, and we'll start to kind of go out now with a more definitive rate proposal for the community to respond to.
Manager Lau, do you think after the work, that January workshop, do you think we'll have a pretty good idea on where we stand one way or the other on the mayor's request?
Chair and Diane, I'll look at it very carefully. It's difficult for me to kind of estimate where we're going to be after the rate workshop, but we can take a look and see if we can meet a faster timeline, if that could be broken out. Or
In the meantime, Mayor, what we've done is there have been a couple of specific requests that have come before us. We've deferred them until we've deferred the water facilities charges for certain projects until we can make a more definitive policy or decision.
So one way, I mean, to back into it, if you look at 800 units max, what is that impact? Taking an average, what do you call water facilities charge or whatever? How much is that times 800, and what does that do to your bottom line? How much of an impact does it really have? And if it's not significant, perhaps making a decision in the interim and then having the study done, and you can look at modifying it at that point.
Yeah, now that we have a number, if 800 is a number we can use, that's very helpful. Prior, we were kind of guessing before this, so.
yeah, and Mayor, if maybe we could work with TPP if you could let them know. It also, if they could determine how many they expect single-family, multifamily, or homeless units. For example, like in single-family units, for 3,000 units, which is a little bit more than 2,400, the estimated, and we're talking about our impact fee, and not just the connection charge or the hookup fee. There are two components mainly: the installation charge or hookup fee, and then the impact fee, which is the impact on water system capacity to provide service to that customer. For about 3,000 single-family units, we saw that impact to be about $11.3 million. So if 3,000 units, say 1,000 units per year were to be built in the next 3 years, and they're all single-family, and then the financial impact, and these are based on water system facilities charges that were set in 1993. So one of the other process in this rate development process is update of our charges. We're going to be looking at the need to update our 1993 water system facility charge to reflect more current costs. So I would say it's probably in that range for 3,000 units, maybe 11.3 million.
What about just for the hookup? Just the hookup?
We'll have to do
You have three components. What is the hookup part?
Oh, we have two components. I don't have the hookup charge in front of me right now.
Because I'm talking about the hookup.
Oh,
Now, I'm interested in the others too, but we're talking about the sewer hookup, for the water hookup. What would that be out of the 11 million?
Oh, that's a very good point, Mayor. I don't have that number in front of me. I just have the impact fee on capacity. So board chair, we can actually go back and look at the hookup fees. If there's a way to determine how many anticipated single-family versus multifamily, because those will change.
Better or worse? More expensive for multi or less expensive?
Multifamily has a bigger meter, but a smaller cost, or probably a smaller cost per unit. Yeah. So if all the 1,000 units are multifamily, then that'll be great. Then we can actually do a better job of estimating what the installation charge or the connection charge might be. Yeah.
I would think more going to be multifamily than single family, but there will probably be some single family, but the bulk is going to be multi.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to say of 800 what it's going to be, but I'm making an assumption, some rough assumptions. The majority multi.
So, Mayor, if I can just, if we can work with DPP, we've been doing outreach to Kathy and to Harrison regarding their plans. Now that we have a little more definitive number, it does make a difference if it's single family and multifamily or rentals or ownership. So those are all things that we need to put into the mix and then get a better estimate. So what we would like to do is contact DPP, we'll let them know, and if they can give us percentages from the numbers, then that would help us make a better decision.
They'll probably, and we'll get you those. It's going to be a little bit rough justice here because out of the 800 to say how many are owner, how many are rental, how many are single family versus multi. I mean, we can give you some of those, but rental versus owner is going to
We're open to a better handle on the numbers.
Yeah.
Especially if the DPP has a kind of an idea of upcoming projects within the next 3-year period, or that might help to refine the numbers for us. Mayor, if
Okay.
I could inquire also, there is a third category, which is the homeless projects, like Mr. Cariso's
Yes.
Leaky Village.
I've asked for that to be waived.
Oh, you're asking also?
Yes, I've asked you. I think I've asked you that in cabinet meetings or somewhere. I've asked, either instructed
So the
someone at DPP or to reach out to you to waive it.
So what
There's so many people contributing. Private sector guys, I just met a plumber who gave $250,000 to the project. I mean, through putting in infrastructure. I would like to, and I can't remember what the charge is for that hookup, but it's pretty hefty. Do you have it down there?
No, it's $94,990.
Yeah.
We deferred it in recognition of the request.
Until they start to.
So I have asked, but I'll go on the record today, I'm asking you to waive that also. We put in $4 million worth of infrastructure the city has for sewer. And, I look at it as part of our doing what we need to do to house hopefully 800 people, about 600 families out there. To help us with the challenges we face on the homeless side of things. Thank you for asking about that.
I wanted to make sure you covered that too.
Yes, thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome
it.
there. But are also, Board, this whole process of having the discussion as we go through the rate adoption process, I think is just very timely. We were very much criticized back in 2011 and a few years thereafter over the lack of transparency in the rate adoption process. So we wanted to ensure that this time our customers knew what was being considered, had an opportunity to weigh in, and the board can make a very informed decision at that point.
That's fair. Transparency is very important to us for credibility, but there have been some requests that's been pending, so perhaps we can, now that we have the information and we're going to get more information that will help us make an informed decision, now we can really start moving and hopefully have a pretty good idea, hopefully within the next few months.
That'd be very helpful before this bill becomes law. Be good to have it included in the incentives portion.
When do you expect the final vote, if all things go well?
If I'm hoping it gets moving again in January, so probably by the end of the first quarter.
That's March timeframe.
Okay? Really appreciate it. Thanks for all your hard work. And have the great holiday season. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to cut in, too.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments on this item? Board of Water Supply financial plan and rate study updates specifically with the subsidies. Okay, I'm going to jump to where we were. I believe we were on item number 6 for information. That's the status update of groundwater levels at all index stations. Mr. Usagawa, Barry?
Barry Usagawa is head of our Water Resources Division, and he'll provide the report. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Ernie. So there's one aquifer index well in low groundwater status that continues to be Honolulu, which was in that caution status since June of this year. Island-wide potable production was 144 million gallons. We've actually turned the corner. The last 3 months we're in the 150 million, as high as 158 in June. Temperatures are decreasing, rainfall is occurring. Our rainfall index for October is 97% of normal. The 5-month moving average is 88%, so we're just about normal rainfall, just a little below there. The National Weather Service is reporting a La Nina condition for the Equatorial Pacific Ocean that raises probabilities of above normal rainfall this winter and into the spring. So we expect a fairly wet winter. Most monitoring wells are exhibiting static or slight increases in head levels due to the decreased pumpage into the winter. I'd just like to summarize the attachments. So the first page of the attachment is the list of all of our 90-plus potable stations, but it also includes our non-potable sources and recycled water. The next pages are 14 index wells across the island. Although there are 13 listed, Makaha index well is offline because the source is offline. These are head levels except for one, which is Waihee Tunnel, which is pressure related. But this allows us to determine the health of the aquifers. You see the 3 lines there on the graphs: caution, alert, and critical. This allows us to track status of aquifers through drought conditions, but all of them are, except one, are in low groundwater. And the last page is the rainfall index. The top graph, the bottom graph shows the production, and it shows that we are just slightly above our 5-year average on pumpage. So we're in good shape in water resources currently, and looks like into the winter months when recharge is the greatest because of the higher rainfall. So that's my report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Barry, you mentioned Makaha is offline?
Yeah, the Makaha index well is offline because the station is offline, so it's not listed in here. So although we have 14 index wells across the island and all of the basal aquifers except Waihee, Makaha is not listed because it's offline.
For repair?
Yeah, it's programmed into the CIP for design of the repairs of the station.
Okay, members, any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sabella. Next, we have the water main repair report for October 2017.
Thank you, Chair. We're going to ask Mr. Mike Bouquet, the head of our field operations division, to provide a main report this month.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya and members of the board. You have the October main break report with you. During the month of October, we had 28 main breaks. The most significant break we had occurred on October 20th, and it occurred on Kalaniana Highway, directly across from the Aina Haina McDonald's. It was only a 12-inch line, and the 12-inch line was in the meteor strip, but for us to repair that line, we had to block one westbound traffic lane, which in turn created traffic problems. For that break, like the other break we had on Cal Highway earlier in the year, we worked very closely with DTS in terms of changing the light signals, the timing of the light signals. We worked closely with HPD, and we also worked closely with Ed Sniffen of DOT. So we get all of our stakeholders all involved. This break was also a concern because Holy Nativity Church had an activity at their location, at their school, which we anticipated that there would be approximately 4,000 people there. But I give credit to Holy Nativity because they really planned their parking, because I think they told everybody go to the elementary school on the West Side Drive side. So as it turned out, the activity at the school really did not impact the heavy traffic load that we had. The break occurred on a Friday afternoon, so it did not affect the Pahana traffic going east. However, Saturday, traffic going west was bad. We were able to repair the main and get out of there by early Sunday morning. Okay. It was only 12. It's not that big of a main. However, the location made it really, really tough on us. But thankfully, we got it done. We got out of there. So far, this year, we have experienced 118 main breaks. If you look on the report, on the top table on the far right, we have the total number of main breaks for the fiscal year. Projecting the 118 for the rest of the year, we're going to probably end up somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 main breaks. If you look at the total number of main breaks going back to fiscal year 2015, you can see the total number of main breaks annually is increasing, or it's getting more and more. And this is where our 30-year master plan hopefully can help address these kind of issues, and we replace more of the mains that are giving us more problems so that we can bring down the total number of main breaks to a lower level. Also on this, we have the leak detection. We're able to survey approximately 100 miles of mains. The leak detection team also found 9 leaks that we repaired before it really became a main break and became problematic. So in that way, it's being proactive in trying to address mains. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Members?
Chair, if I could just thank Mike and our Field Operations Division that worked really hard to do these repairs. Sometimes they're very difficult locations, and with also the support of our Water System Operations Division and our Communications Office. It is developed, especially in our busy highways like state highways, a very good working relationship with DTS, Department of Transportation Services, HPD, the police department, and also the DOT. We have what we call now a rapid response team. And on these locations where there's high traffic, traffic seems to become also a large issue that we have to deal with. And Mike's doing a great job with his team.
Oh, it's not only my crew, it's also Kathleen's crew, and she takes it out to the word to the public, making everybody aware of what's going on out there. It helps us out because then we don't have to deal with the press.
Yeah, we can tell when I look at my phone and I notice I have 20 text messages, that means it's going to be a long night. Because we do a lot of group texts with the state and city officials and ourselves to keep everybody on board in these responses. So thank you, Kathleen, also for your hard work. She's out in Wailua, and sometimes she's driving all the way to Cal Highway or Waikiki to be there to deal with the media on site with the main breaks. So I appreciate that. Mike's correct in saying that our water master plan, I think, has identified the need to ramp up our pipe miles being replaced each year to 21, or at least 1% of our system. And master plan, with its long-term capital programs, identified the 200 miles of most critical mains that we need to address in the next 10 to 15 years. So I appreciate also the board's direction in supporting the ramp up of our CIP, our capital program. And that's what we're looking at to address with our long-term financial plan and our rates. I just want to say that all the money we get from ratepayers and their charges are basically what we use to reinvest into our water system and our infrastructure. And it's important we continue to reinvest into the infrastructure for our future. Mahalo.
Well, thank you, Manager Lau, Mr. Fuki, Ms. Pahinui, entire staff for your hard work and dedication. It's much appreciated. Public appreciates it. As a board, I think we've voted on certain directive on ramping up on the the CIP projects and the water main breaks. So you definitely have our support. Thank you. Members, any comments, questions? Okay, I think that was the last item for our regular agenda. Now I would like to go into executive session.